Good evening. Thank you for joining us on the War Diary. On the 410th day of the war, here are the main highlights of the day at 7 p.m. Beirut time. We begin with the situation in Lebanon. Diplomatically, U.S. Special Envoy Amos Hochstein held, and I quote, constructive talks with Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri in Ain al-Tine, focusing on resolving the ongoing war in Lebanon. In his meetings, he emphasized regional cooperation, including efforts in Lebanon and Israel to foster peace and stability. The U.S. envoy then met caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati at his residence. During the meeting, Mikati reiterated Lebanon's priority commitment to a ceasefire and the cessation of Israeli attacks against Lebanon. Hochstein also met the army's commander-in-chief, General Joseph Aoun. In Beirut, Israeli warplanes launched a raid on Gbeiri at dawn without warning. 2 people were killed in the attack, according to emergency health officials. An Israeli drone targeted and destroyed a 4-story building in Shiyeh, causing injuries. In the south, Israel continued shelling the outskirts of several villages and towns, including Zib'in, Majd al-Zoun, Qana, Kfar Tibnit, Adloun, Al-Hosh, Khiyam, Al-Baysariya, and Shibel in the Jazin area, as well as Mazra'at al-Shuf, leading to several deaths and injuries. Meanwhile, clashes between Hezbollah and the Israeli army are still taking place on the axis of the towns of Shama, Tair Harfa, and Al Bayada. They also targeted a building in Tyre without prior warning, as ambulances and civil defense teams have headed to the targeted area. In Qana, the warplanes targeted the center of the Islamic Health Organization, killing two. 2 raids on Nabati al-Fawqa targeted a house, killing other 2. The teams of the Lebanese Red Cross and the International Committee of the Red Cross in Beirut recovered the remains of 6 bodies of the members of the Islamic Health Organization. In Beirut, 2 Israeli airstrikes targeted the towns of Libeya and Zilaya, and an Israeli airstrike in the afternoon targeted the town of Yunin. Israeli planes also carried out very violent airstrike targeting the junction of the Beqa town of Sha'b. In retaliation, Hezbollah mentioned in several statements that it attacked sensitive military points in Tel Aviv, an Israeli fighter jet in the Lebanese town of Taibe, and gatherings of army south of Lebanon villages of Khiyam, Al-Bayada, Shama, Marun al-Ras. It also mentioned that it targeted the Galilut base on the outskirts of Tel Aviv and the Beit Lid base 90 kilometers from the border east of Netanya. Hezbollah also announced that it had targeted the gathering of the Israeli army in several settlements, including Ga'aton and Ramim Honim. Meanwhile, the Israeli army announced killing the commander of Hezbollah's medium-range rocket system, Ali Tawfiq Dweik, in Farshos. In other news, Israeli army spokesman Avichai Adrai shared a statement and photos on his X platform claiming to be in South Lebanon, saying to have, and I quote, inspected areas that Hezbollah has turned into forward military bases. Al Arabiya sources reported that the Marilias raid in Beirut 2 days ago targeted Ali Shaito, Hezbollah's official on the southern front in Syria, and his fate is still unknown. On the humanitarian front, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, said on Tuesday that over 200 children were killed in less than 2 months since Israel escalated its military operations in Lebanon. In Lebanon, the latest toll from the Ministry of Health stands at 3,516 killed and 14,929 others injured since October 8, 2023. In Palestine, the armed wing of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad claims that its fighters targeted a group of Israeli soldiers and vehicles with mortar shells near the Jabalia Service Club in the center of the Jabalia camp in northern Gaza. Last month, the Israeli army sent tanks into Jabalia and the nearby towns of Beit Hanun and Beit Lahia in what it described as a campaign against Palestinian fighters. In the occupied West Bank, 3 Palestinians were killed in an Israeli operation near Jenin. The Israeli army claimed to have targeted, and I quote, terrorists, while the bodies of the victims are in Israeli custody. In Tehran, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi welcomed his Syrian counterpart Bassam al-Sabah on a visit aimed at strengthening bilateral relations amid regional tensions. Araghchi reaffirmed Iran's support for Syria and Hezbollah, stressing Iran's commitment to its allies. That's it for today's recap. See you tomorrow for another roundup of the situation. Until then, stay connected on our website www.thisisbeirut.com.lb and on our social media platforms.